while working with Vladimir Konstantinov, he told me about that he had friends in Perm who had an idea where the remains of Michael Romanov might be. So the following year, I called them up. I said, "Let's go search for Michael Romanov." I mean, if they don't believe us on the Nicholas, we found our results of Nicholas II. Let's just try to find Michael Romanov and try to prove them wrong, or try to just add to the case. Unfortunately, as you know, a lot of work went towards the Romanovs, towards Nicholas, the identification of Nicholas II. It was not only DNA, but as far as the bullets, I found the first bullet in the first grave. Then in the main grave where the bridge was, they found a lot of bullets. And then when the last two children were found in 2007, we found more bullets that were actually there. And it turns out that the killers left their guns in the museum because they wanted to be remembered. So the ballistics tests were done, and they found that the same bullets fired from the same gun were in all three spots. So that's another little proof. So I went in 2009, Konstantinov and I went to Perm to search for the remains of Michael Romanov and his secretary, Brian Johnson, whose father was a sea captain, a British sea captain as well. Next. We started out with prayer. And every search that we've done was with prayer. But you must remember one thing, that when Ardonin was searching for the remains of the royal family, he had the Yurovsky paper. Yurovsky, the killer, wrote in exact detail and left it with his family and in the archives as to where the remains were, the bridge. We don't have that luxury. We have what the killers wrote. We have, but it's all, it's very inconsistent. And so when we first arrived in Perm, we found that there were 9 different versions of where Mikhail might be. And so we started studying all the cases, and we felt that the place where we first started looking, then we was vast, but was the most interesting case for us. Next. This is Konstantinov with the radar. First, we were taken, by the way, to not to the area we're searching now, but to a different area. And looking up, we saw the letter M and the letter A on a tree. And I got excited. I said, because the killers wrote also that they carved the letter M and the letter A and VK, also Veliki Knyaz, on the tree. We didn't see a VK. But the problem was that the M and the A were way up on the tree. And I didn't know it then until I started working with NecroSearch International, and I got a forensic botanist who came and said, no. Tree, if you put your initials on a tree at eye level, it will remain that way, because trees do not grow that way. Trees do not, the markings will not go up. They'll stay level, and the trees will go out, and they go up from the top. So no way, this is a fake. So, okay, now we're down to 8 versions, so nice. So Konstantinov in the middle with his radar, Dr. Sergei Nikitin, and then Igor is also another radar expert. Came with us in 2012. 2009, we worked there for 3 days. We didn't know anyone. We got rained out, and we said, let's go home. 2012, we went back, and we started searching. There's one area where the Michael and Grand Duke Michael and Brian Johnson were taken from the hotel where they were staying and taken north to the town of Motovirikhi, which is north of Perm, big factory, and then they were driven about 6 kilometers north on the Solikamsky tract. They turned off the track and went about maybe 400 yards, 200 to 400 yards, and were killed. This was around midnight. It was raining. The killers covered the bodies with brush, went back. The next morning, two of them came back and buried them. Where they buried them, no one knows. So we decided to start looking. The most, from our investigations and police investigation, killers will bury people in areas that they are familiar with. To bury a person of a large size, let's say if there's a road, they will go maybe about 20 meters off the road max. If it's child, they'll go 100 meters. But here, they even wrote they went about 20 meters off the road, so we were close. So keep going. So Konstantinov, every time with the radar saw something, he would take a bore, bring up samples, which is that's his way of doing things. That's the only person I had. Next. But we started looking at trying to find caves and try to find also not only caves but mine shafts in the area. So we had to we went to museums, we went to the archives looking for maps of the whole area. And this area became the most interesting for us because this is about the distance that they traveled north of Montevilichi. They turned right. One of the killers owned land on the other side of the hill here. So he was very familiar. This area is surrounded by, on the other side of this field, on the back, it's called Krasnogorka Red Hill. It's very steep, and there's valleys inside, a hidden area. And this is where the Bolsheviks had their Mayakovsky, their meetings in 1905, hiding, which they used to hide from the police. Next. And the church, this is already 2014, 2015. So let me just go on with tell you that with Konstantinov, we searched out part of the area, and we were going to go back the next year. Unfortunately, he passed away. So in my travels, and I got to know through my American scientist, Diane France from Colorado State University, who I took in February to examine the remains. Diane France is part of a group called Necrosearch International. It's a group of about 30 different scientists from 16 different sciences that have come together to search for remains and search for and work with the FBI, the police, and myself. This is the spot that Konstantinov felt was the most logical spot where we would find Mikhail. As you can see, I'm looking down from a hill, the hill on the other side. This is where and this used to be all fields. This is young forest. On the other side here, the swampy area. But they started searching, and then, it's like we have the forest, and you have to knock down the forest. We didn't have the means to do that. We didn't have, and then we brought on, not only from Necrosearch International, I'm working with Clark Davenport, forensic geophysicist, also working with, I take a cadaver dog from the UK. I have forensic archaeologists working, and these fellas have worked finding remains from wars and so forth, and know the methods for searching for remains, which we applied over here. So continue, please. So this is Mick with his search dog, Sam. Unfortunately, Sam passed away. Now we have Ronnie. And what Mick does is he has a metal rod, and he pokes holes every 30 centimeters on the ground, which brings up any gases that might be trapped even over time. Sam has found remains that were about 35 years in the sand in Ireland. And Ronnie is a young dog now, but he's well trained. He also can find cancer, skin cancer. Next. So we started chopping down the forest, very slow method. And then decided to take, dig down. See, we're looking for the road that they traveled. And we felt, by looking at the old maps, we followed the contour of the map, and we felt that, all right, so we find the road, determine where the road is, and then we'll search 20 meters on one side, 20 up to, well, actually more, 30 meters on one side, 30 meters on the other, and like that. But what did we find? We found cobblestones. A cobblestone road that was about 300, it turned out it was about 300 meters long, 900 feet, about 10 meters wide, 30 feet wide. It was built by the German war prisoners from 1942 to 1947 or so. And there was no forest there. I guess that was abandoned. And this led to a brick factory at the end of the road, and the brick factory has been there for a long time. Keep going. So instead, I got one of these to clear the forest out. Of course, we have permits and so forth. And we also found signs where the old trees were. We took GPS readings of where those old trees were. Because when we're through with everything, we're going to put those trees back where the new trees back where the old ones used to be, and bring the forest back where what it was in 1918. Next. Next. All right, we did this in one search, one season. But now we just can't carpet, cut down the whole forest. So what we're doing now, I'm going back to Russia next week, in 2 weeks actually, and I'm hiring a geophysical company that's going to do radar studies. They're doing in the snow. The snow is like maybe half a meter or so. And on skis, they do it. They go around trees and all this. So what we'll get is, and they're connected to GPS. So as they're reading it, we'll get the GPS signal. And we'll get readings for the whole forest all the way down to the next road, which is almost a kilometer. And my guys in Colorado, with neck research, will then get the information and do a 3D map on the ground. So from that, we'll get to see what's underground, what's underneath those trees without even cutting down a tree. Next. We went down to the level of 1918, but it's a different spots. That area had been disturbed before. There were prisoner camps there. There were different things that occurred. We haven't found any remains at all. The stream that was there moved, so I also have to move the stream back to where it was. So this is getting very, very complicated. Next. We also have the fellas that found Alexis and Maria come and help us. We found bullets from, it is a 55 caliber, I think that's what it is. They were practice shooting at that guy, from that guy's land, so we know exactly, have an idea where that guy lived. Right next to his place was a swamp. So we want to search that swamp out. That is our goal too. Next. And we had that's Roddy, okay, next. The radar, Dima is from southern Russia, and an archaeologist who comes and works with us. So we have Russian, British, and American scientists working together in this politically charged world. And frankly, we don't care about politics, we care about history. And we're trying to solve a historical issue. Go ahead, next. Clark Davenport, geophysical. This machine here, it reads the amount of, let us know how much water, let's say the ground is holding, or how much, and he can see if it's hard or if it's not, the ground is hard. Nice. So this is the area that we searched. That's the cobblestone road. Nice. So from the top looking down, there's a jail over here. There's a jail over here. Next. This is our American team. And this is our Russian team. Just to enclose. Oh, we were having fun. But we do have fun at the same time. But just in closing, right now, there's a commission that was formed in Perm by order of the government to study everything that's available on Michael Romanov in that whole area. They're studying the archives, especially hopefully the presidential archive as well, for any information regarding the Romanovs, especially Michael Romanov and Brian Johnson. And so stay tuned. We're going back again next summer for 3 weeks. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Well, hopefully 2 quick questions. Who finances this project? It seems to be very expensive.
The people that finance my project are Russians living in the United States, and also the Russian Nobility Association in America. We also have donors in Russia who help with transportation, and the church supplies us food, hot lunches, the monastery. So we eat monastery food every day in the field, even the heat and everything. But it's good to get hot soup even when it's hot. And then I have a foundation, nonprofit foundation, and I get people that donate money to the foundation, and that's how I make it work. For this year, I have, I'm always looking for people that if they're willing to donate to help out, please do. Thank you very much.
One more question.
On the 23rd of September last year, according to Vladika Tikhon-Shevkunov, a commission was created to investigate, to authenticate the remains. And it's supposed to produce results at the end of January or the beginning of February, which is about now. And the commission includes academician Alexeyev, Vladika Tikhon, and also chairman from the Moscowski Patriarchat, Vladimir Legoida. And according to Vladika Tikhon, invited all people who investigated the remains to submit their results to the commission also. So the question is, first, did you have a chance to submit your results to the commission? And the second question is, it seems like there is no stone unturned at this point, and your conclusions are so conclusive, and yet why do they do another investigation?
Oh, good question. I think the church has the right to make sure that no question is unanswered, that every question is answered. I mean, and first of all, when they opened up now, they redid the DNA that we did in 2018. They redid the DNA of the Tsar. They did the DNA of the children. They did the DNA of the shirt that was done in Ekaterinburg by Dr. Rogayev. They did the DNA, they assumed Alexander III, they did his DNA, and guess what? Everything is matched for the 2008 results, right? That is no question. Okay, still now, very important, they formed commission to examine all the archives, to get all the information that they can. To this day, they haven't done all the work that's needed to be done. The church wants to have all their questions answered. At first, there was a question as whether like Avdonin found 3 skulls, but were the 3 skulls taken in 1918 to Moscow, and why did Yurovsky, when Sokolov entered the Ipatiev house, he also found receipts for 3 hat boxes that Yurovsky had ordered. Why would Yurovsky order 3 hat boxes, if not to carry 3 threads to Moscow and as proof of the murder? Well, and I tell you this, I think I know what I did. in February of 1998, I took 2 forensic anthropologists, and we were allowed to examine the remains. And one of the things that I did was to ask them to check the neck bones of Nicholas II to see if his head had been cut off. And they said there's absolutely nothing here to indicate that that had occurred. And when they examined the other remains, same thing. And now, when they opened up the grave again of Nicholas II, I'm sure they checked that, and saw something written that there was no indication also that that had been done. So that was one of the questions. As far as other questions that remain unanswered, I believe that all the questions that the church had been answered. But the archives still have to be searched. There's a lot of people working on this case. There's a lot of people that have the ear of the patriarch also, who are against anything against these remains. And frankly, if they really read the information, they will see that clearly will see that these are the remains of the royal family. Absolutely no doubt that it's them. I was supposed to be in that commission as well. And because anyway, so in my bio I wrote, there's no doubt that these are the Romanovs. Probably that's why they never called me. So, yeah.
If I can just interject my personal opinion on why the church doesn't recognize or has doubts and wants this commission. Frankly, I think they're embarrassed, and this is face saving, because they denied the authenticity the first time around, and now they're delaying, and then when finally they can't deny it anymore, they'll say, well, at least we did all this extra work to make sure. In all my reading of church history, I've never encountered any set of relics which have been investigated, reinvestigated as much and as scientifically as these. When Saint Seraphim of Sarov was found in the anti-religious museum in Kazan, in the attic, nobody had doubts that these were his relics. Although they weren't labeled; they were in some box, and they were recognized as his relics. But for some reason, the royal family. It's crazy. I mean, how many times can you test? You all saw what Dr. Dr. Coble showed us. I mean, it's well, a very noble task, Doctor.
Very noble, Dr. Coble.
Yes, very noble, Dr. Coble. I mean, it's amazing the trillions, and yet there are still people who are denying it. I think they're just embarrassed, frankly.
I believe that there will be an end, and I think sometimes that perhaps they're waiting till 2018, but they gave themselves at first. When they said, we'll find out, we'll have the burial in October. I said, there's not enough time for them to study all the material. They have to push it back. And finally, they realized they pushed it back to as long as necessary to get all the information to become convinced. And as one said, I think Civil Chaplain said, well, we convinced all the people that it was not them. Now, if we start trying, so all of a sudden we say that it is them, I won't be able to walk through the streets of Ekaterinburg. So I think that you have to give it time. And the church needs time. They have all the time. And then that's fine. That's fine. Meantime, I look for Mikhail Romanov. And once I find Mikhail Romanov, will be extra proof for that. Thank you very much.
The question was, are you going to submit your findings to this new commission?
No. I gave all our findings, all our reports, we gave to the church in 2009. They have all that information. I gave them binding, So.
But they want it again.
I wasn't asked for it. I don't think I will be. But
Send them a copy.
well, we could just show it to them, but they already know what our results are. And frankly, they can do the DNA testing as many times as they want, and the truth will persevere. The truth is that these are the remains of the royal family and their children. Thank you very much.